Hi, folks. I'm Elaine Fraze, Farm Family Coach, and today we're talking about gifts with a warm hand, not a cold one. And just this week, I was at another funeral and hearing about the generosity of a man who knew he was dying and wanted to give away his drum sets to musicians who were up and coming drummers. He left money in a foundation to feed the hungry in Victoria. And there are many stories regaling his generosity of giving gifts all through his life from a generous perspective. Now, many of you are thinking, what does this mean, giving gifts with a warm hand, not a cold one? It means moving assets and gifts towards your next generation while you're still alive and not waiting for it all to happen in your estate, which is your will, when you die. And I've been working with some farm families who are really struggling with the fact that they know there's a lot of wealth, but the comment from the parent might be, well, you just have to wait until you're dead. But what if it would give a leg up now? So Dr. Meir Statman was in a financial planning conference that I was at years ago in Halifax, and he used the comment, giving gifts with a warm hand, not a cold one. And he was talking about normal financial behaviors and why culture matters so much in how we transfer and transition our money to the next generation. So I clapped when I heard him say that, be giving gifts with a wise hand, not a cold one. So land values are continuing to climb, and non-farm heirs are curious about what is going to be their inheritance when their parents pass. And it's a very difficult conversation to have. But I often wonder if you've even talked to your non-farm heirs about what their expectations are of you, of their inheritance. And what would it look like if you help them with their house mortgages, or help them with the grandchildren's education, or help them do a special project or even a foundation type charitable thing that was really important to them, and they could actually tell you in real time and give a sense of appreciation for the transfer of the gift. But thinking like this terrifies some of the next generation, because many readers of this blog and listeners are going to think, well, Elaine, if I asked my heirs what they expected from me about an inheritance, wouldn't that just open up a whole can of worms of conflict? Well, not necessarily. And I hope that you understand that you have the joy of giving and receiving, and also figuring out where you want to allocate the cascading of your wealth. So Dr. Meir Statman, this man I heard speak, is also the author of the book Finances for Normal People. And I always say normal is only a setting on your dishwasher, but that's a story for another day. So he talks about emotional benefits. So if you were to choose to be giving your wife a $10 bill for your anniversary or a rose, what would the emotional benefit be? Well, the choice is pretty clear. Likely the rose is a better option. And if your wife doesn't like cut flowers, maybe she likes chocolate. I don't know. So the deep emotion around your expectations around the inheritance might be based on a money script that your non-farm heirs carries, which says, if my dad really loved me, he would give me some of the farmland. Well, I'm pretty sure your parents do love you, but farmland is really expensive, as you know, and they may want to keep the farmland intact, unless they also want to do what Merle Good has suggested many years for farm families to do, is if you're going to give non-farm heirs a piece of land, then there needs to be a contractual agreement over 15 years with fair market price of what the rental is going to be, and first right of refusal for the farming child to buy that back at the end of 15 years. And if the non-farm child doesn't want it to be bought back, well, then maybe there's a new negotiation at the 15-year mark. There are also expressive benefits, like what does it say about me when I drive a combine that's red or yellow or green or silver? So we all know that there's branding and there's equipment companies that love the benefit of what color paint you value and what you put on your yard. So what does it say about you, though, when you leave your family in this neutral zone and the pain and the anxiety of not knowing, because you refuse to talk to them about what your will says? So again, it's 2025. Your children are now adults, everyone can emotionally process your reasons why you made certain decisions. So why not tell them why you're making gifting the way you're doing it and why you want to give some with a warm hand and not just keep it all in the will. April's coming up and it's Will's month, and I am still meeting farmers. I met another one today who's in her early stage of life with young children. And yes, she needs to get to a lawyer to get guardianship for her children. And also, she and her husband need to complete the drafting of their first will. Please, folks, you have all the ideas that you've been listening to me for decades on how you can make this process maybe less frightening and less conflictual, but you need to understand that money is a tool and you have to figure out what the benefits are going to be of having these conversations while everyone is around to understand what your intent is. And another question is, what are the utilitarian benefits of passing gifts along with a warm hand? What will it do for your pocketbook? So one of my quirks is to use paper towels very sparingly and to use rags and wash them over and over again and use cloth napkins and drive my Toyota until it's not worth a whole lot anymore, maybe 10 years down the road. Those are my money choices, but I'm very practical and utilitarian in what I see as being helpful. And again, it also has to be aligned to what it would look like for your pocketbook of your farm assets to start moving some of the equity down to the next generation while you're alive so that they can leverage that equity to service debt and to grow their own businesses. So there's lots of things to consider here. And just in closing, I'll say that Statman also feels that if you do move some of the assets with a warm hand, it will help also mitigate and help the risk tolerance of those families using those assets while they can and have time opportunity of cost of money going forward, which means they can risk more or take better chances knowing that they have this extra financial support in the now rather than waiting it for some point in the future when we don't know when death is going to happen and your estate plan is activated. Gifts with a warm hand, not just a cold one. Hope you can think about this, and I hope you can have some really robust conversations. See you next time.